Listen to me. You want to win. You want to be a champion. Then you got to think like one. You got to breathe like one. You got to live like one. See, everybody wants to be a beast until it's time to do what beasts do. Everybody wants to wear the crown, but nobody wants to carry the weight. Let me break something down for you right now. A championship mindset ain't about talent. It's not about what family you came from. It's not about luck. It's not about the coach, the weather, the season, or who doubted you. It's about how bad you want it when the lights are off. It's about what you do when nobody's watching. It's about pushing through even when your body says stop and your mind is screaming, I can't. You override that. You override Bookmakers with will. Everybody wants to shine under the lights. Everybody wants that trophy, that stage, that round of applause. But what most people don't understand is that the real work, the championship mindset, is built in the dark. It's built when the crowd is gone, when nobody's clapping, and when the only voice you hear is the one inside your head telling you to quit, and you choose not to. That's where champions are forged. Not in the moment of victory, but in the unseen hours that lead up to it. So, the early mornings when your body aches and the bed feels like a warm prison, but you get up anyway. The late nights when your friends are out having fun and you're alone in a gym or behind a desk grinding. That's the difference. It's not glamorous. It's not sexy, but it's necessary. The truth is, the dark is uncomfortable. It's lonely. And that's why most people avoid it. They want the spotlight, but they don't want the shadows. They want the destination without the journey. But the championship mindset is born in isolation, in sacrifice, in the thousands of moments when you choose to do what needs to be done. Without recognition, without reward, without reassurance. Send the reps nobody sees, the work nobody counts, and the sweat nobody applauds. Champions aren't looking for validation. They're not out there trying to prove anything to the world. They're in the lab every single day, building themselves piece by piece. They know that one moment under the lights is built on thousands of moments in the dark. You can't fake preparation. You can't shortcut process. The grind will expose you if you haven't been doing the work. And the championship mindset, it doesn't just prepare you physically, it prepares you mentally. It sharpens you. It teaches you to trust the process even when it feels like it's going nowhere. When the progress is slow, when the days blur together, when it feels like the breakthrough is never coming, you keep going. That's what separates you. Because it's easy to show up when everything's working in your favor. But what do you do when nothing's going right? When the results aren't matching the effort, that's when the dark tries to break you. That's when it tries to convince you it's not worth it. That's where most people fold. But a champion leans into that pain. A champion uses that silence as motivation. A champion embraces the dark because they know that's where the edge is found. The dark is where you build your habits, where you program your mind to do the hard thing over and over until it's second nature. It's where you teach yourself to stop making excuses, to stop waiting for someone to save you, to stop hoping and start working. You become dangerous in the dark because you're training yourself to win when no one is watching. And when you've done it long enough, that work starts to become who you are. It's not about hype anymore. It's not about potential. It's about reality. It's about ownership. It's about refusing to be average, even if nobody else ever claps for you. In the dark, there are no shortcuts. You either show up or you don't. You either push through or you fold. And the ones who keep showing up, who keep grinding, who keep doing the things nobody wants to do, they're the ones who walk into the spotlight already knowing they've won. Because the real victory happened months, maybe years ago, when they were in the trenches with no guarantee of success, and they gave everything they had anyway. That's what the dark teaches you. It teaches you to bet on yourself when nobody else will. It teaches you that pain is part of the process. It teaches you that excellence isn't a destination. It's a decision. One you make every single day, often when it's hardest. Most people only see the finish line. They don't see the late nights with no sleep, the double sessions, the skip parties, the rejection, the losses, the injuries, the doubts, the breakdowns, and the sacrifices that came before the breakthrough. But those are the bricks that built the win. Those moments are the foundation of a champion. And if you want that mindset, you can't skip them. You have to go through them. You have to live in the dark long enough to let transform you. Because once you put in that kind of work, once you committed yourself to that level of discipline and focus, the light isn't intimidating. It's confirmation. It's not pressure. It's privilege. Because you know you've already paid the price. You know you've already bled for this. You know you've already earned it with everything you did when nobody was looking. The world is full of talented people who never become champions. Full of gifted athletes, smart students, creative artists, and skilled workers who never reach their full potential. Not because they didn't have what it takes, but because their mindset wasn't right. Talent can only take you so far. After a certain point, it's not about your natural ability. It's about how you think. It's about what you believe. It's about how you respond when things get hard. And that's where the championship mindset steps in. See, a real champion doesn't rely on talent. A real champion relies on discipline, effort, and grit. Because talent is just the entry point. It's the minimum. The moment you start leaning on it, the moment you start depending on it, you've already lost to someone who's hungrier than you. Mindset is everything because it's the root of every action. If your mind is weak, your habits will be weak. Your decisions will be inconsistent. Your emotions will control you. But when your mind is strong, when you've trained it to focus, to endure, to fight, your body follow, your habits follow, your results follow. That's why someone with less talent can be someone more gifted. Because the person with the right mindset doesn't stop when they're tired. They stop when they're done. The one with the right mindset doesn't fold under pressure. They rise with it. They see failure and don't get discouraged. They get fueled. Most people are trained to avoid pain, to seek comfort, to do just enough to get by. But a championship mindset is different. It's wired to chase growth, not comfort. It's trained to push through, not pull back. It doesn't wait for the right conditions. It creates them. It doesn't care what the scoreboard says in the first quarter. It's focused on the final buzzer. Doesn't fear the opponent. It respects them and still goes in ready to dominate. Because the mindset isn't about comparing yourself to others. It's about beating who you were yesterday. It's about beating who you were yesterday. It's about self-mastery. There's a reason the same names keep rising to the top in every industry. It's not a coincidence. It's not just talent. It's their mindset. They see the game differently. They don't get satisfied with one win. They don't let one loss define them. They stay hungry. They stay hungry. They stay grounded. They study. They prepare. They recover. They adapt. Because they know that the real battle's in the mind. If you lose there, you've already lost out here. And if you win there, you've already got the edge. The championship mindset knows that life isn't fair, but it also knows that life rewards consistency. It understands that you don't control everything, but you always control your attitude, your response, your preparation, and your execution. That's power. That's where success starts to stack. Not because everything's easy, but because your mind is locked in, focused, upset, committed. Not for a week, not for a month, for as long as it takes. Most people can't maintain that. They quit when the motivation dies. They give up when the pain shows up. But the champion keeps going because the mind is already made up. People talk about a mental toughness like it's a gift. It's not. It's a choice. It's something you build brick by brick, decision by decision. You build it when you say no to distractions. You build it when you show up on the days you don't feel like it. You build it every time you keep your word to yourself. That's how you build a mind that doesn't crack under pressure, that doesn't bend when life hits, that doesn't give up just because it's hard. And once you got that, you're unstoppable because the world can take away your resources, your comfort, your support, but it can't take your mindset unless you let it. The ones who make it to the top aren't the ones who started with the most. They're the ones who refuse to settle. The ones who train their mind to see opportunity in every obstacle. The ones who kept showing up long after they were tired. The ones who didn't let failure stop them. They let it sharpen them. That's what this is about. Not just grinding hard, but thinking right. Not just hustling, but believing. Not just moving, but moving with purpose, with clarity, with intention. That's the championship mindset. It's not reactive, it's proactive. It doesn't get thrown off by circumstances. It adapts, it adjusts, it finds a way because champions don't just train their bodies, they train their thoughts. They don't just prepare their skills, They prepare their perspective. And that makes all the difference when the moment comes. Discomfort is the place where greatness is born. Most people spend their whole lives trying to avoid it, trying to stay safe, trying to stay comfortable. They avoid the pain, the challenge, the risk, and in doing so, they avoid the growth. But champions are different. They don't run from discomfort, they run toward it. They understand every inch of progress, every layer of strength, every level of greatness lives on the other side of pain. Growth doesn't happen in your comfort zone. Nothing about winning is comfortable. Nothing about excellence easy. If you're chasing a dream, if you're pushing for greatness, you better get used to being uncomfortable, because that's the rent you pay for elevation. Pain is part of the process. You don't get to rise without it. You don't get stronger without stretching beyond what's easy. Your body doesn't grow unless you break it down. Your character doesn't sharpen unless you're tested. Your mind doesn't evolve unless it's challenged. And those challenges aren't meant to stop you. They're meant to transform you. They're not punishment. They're preparation. But the problem is, most people tap out the second it gets hard, the second it burns, the second they get tired, the second it doesn't go their way. They fold. Not because they aren't capable, but because they've never trained themselves to be comfortable being uncomfortable. The championship mindset is about embracing that burn, embracing the chaos, embracing the grind that nobody sees. It's about walking into the fire with your eyes open and your fists clenched, knowing that the heat is not your enemy, it's your teacher. Every rep, every sprint, every setback, every painful moment is shaping you. It's refining you. It's building a version of you that can handle more, carry more, push more. But that only happens if you lean in. If you stop trying to escape discomfort and start using it, start owning it, start demanding more from it. The pain has a purpose, but only if you don't run from it. That's why champions show up when it's raining. That's why they practice when they're sore, when they're tired, when they're mentally drained. That's why they get up after they fail. Because they're not chasing easy. They're chasing mastery. They're chasing mastery. They're chasing a level of greatness that can't be accessed through shortcuts or convenience. Every ounce of discomfort they endure becomes a deposit into their future. Every time they choose the hard thing, they stack mental currency. And eventually, that compound interest of suffering turns into power. It turns into belief. It turns into a mindset so strong, so solid, that nothing can break it. This mindset doesn't start in the spotlight. It starts when nobody's around, when there's no audience, when it's just you, your thoughts, and that voice telling you to quit. You get stronger every time you say no to that voice. Every time you ignore the excuses. Every time you tell yourself, we're doing this anyway. That's how the mindset's forged. Through reps, through pain, through repetition. You can't buy this mindset. You have to build it, and the only way to build it is by stepping into the fire over and over until it no longer scares you. You don't become elite by choosing what's comfortable. You don't dominate by playing it safe. Champions understand that the road to greatness is littered with discomfort. There are no detours, there are no passes. You either go through it or you don't make it. And the ones who go through it, they become unstoppable, not because it didn't hurt, but because they stopped letting the hurt control them. They made the pain their partner. They used it to fuel them, to focus them, to strengthen their resolve. That's the difference between average and elite. How they handle discomfort. If you look at anyone who's made it, who's truly achieved greatness, you'll see a story of discomfort. You'll see someone who went through the fire, who had every reason to quit but did. You'll see someone who failed, who fell, who lost but kept coming. Someone who refused to let temporary pain rob them of long-term victory. And they weren't made in moments of celebration. They were made in moments of suffering, because they understood that the pain was part of the plan, that the grind was part of the gift. That discomfort wasn't the thing to be avoided. It was the thing to be embraced. When you stop fearing discomfort, you unlock a new level. You stop being reactive and start becoming dangerous. Because now you're not just motivated by success, you're prepared for war. You're prepared for the long nights, the early morning, the setbacks, the sacrifices. You're prepared to keep going when others quit, to show up when it's ugly, to keep swinging when your hands are blistered and your lungs are burning, because you've made peace with the pain. You've decided that the discomfort is worth it. And that decision, that internal shift, It's what separates the ones who wish from the ones who win. Motivation is good, but it's not enough. It'll get you started, but it won't keep you going. Motivation is and emotions are unstable. They come and go. Some days you feel like it, some days you don't. But the championship mindset doesn't rely on feelings. It's built on discipline. Discipline is what kicks in when motivation disappears. Discipline is what carries you when your body's tired, when your mind is cloudy, when the excitement is gone. Because that's what champions do. They show up regardless. They don't negotiate with excuses. They don't wait for the perfect moment. They create consistency through commitment. People wait for motivation like it's some magical fuel, thinking one day they'll wake up and feel unstoppable. But that's not how champions live. Champions know that the days you don't feel like doing it are the most important days to show up. Because those are the days that build you. Those are the days that separate the committed from the curious. When it's cold, when it's early, when no one else is grinding, that's when discipline becomes your best friend. That's when your future gets built, not when it's easy, but when it's hard and you do it anyway. Discipline doesn't ask how you feel. Discipline tells you what needs to be done. It doesn't care if you're tired, if you're sore, if you're unmotivated. It's not about mood, it's about mission. Discipline doesn't make decisions based on emotion. It makes decisions based on the goal. And if the goal is greatness, then discipline is the only road that gets you there. Motivation might get you in the gym once a week. Discipline will get you in there every single day, rain or shine. Sick or well, ready or not. Most people fall off not because they lack ability, but because they lack structure. Their actions are tied to how they feel. And when the feelings die, so does the effort. But champions build systems. Champions have routines. They don't just work hard when they're hyped. They work hard always because they've committed to the process. They've built discipline into their DNA. That's why they're consistent. That's why they're relentless. They don't need someone to check in on them. They don't need someone to remind them. They don't need a song to pump them up or a speech to light the fire. The fire is already inside, and discipline keeps it burning. Discipline is the foundation of mastery. It's doing the same small thing with excellence over and over, even when they get boring. It's sticking to the routine when there's no reward. It's keeping the standard high when no one's watching. It's respecting the grind even when you're not getting the results yet. Because discipline understands that growth is delayed, that results take time, that the work you're doing today might not pay off for months, but it will pay off. You can't plant seeds and expect fruit the next morning. Champions plant, water, and wait because they trust the process and they have the discipline to keep showing up even when it feels like nothing's changing. It's easy to be hyped when everything's going well. But what happens when adversity shows up? When life punches you in the mouth? That's when discipline reveals itself. Motivation might leave you on the mat, but discipline will get you back up. Discipline will drag you through the mud and keep you locked in when everything else is falling apart. That's the edge. That's the separator. That's the trait that our champions share. They're not controlled by what's easy or fun. They're driven by a commitment that doesn't break under pressure. And the beautiful thing is discipline is not something you're born with. It's something you choose. It's something you build. You don't wake up disciplined. You become disciplined by doing the hard thing again and again until it becomes who you are. You don't wait for it. You train it. Every time you push through resistance, you're reinforcing it. Every time you stay focused when distractions call your name, you're reinforcing it. Every time you keep your word to yourself, you're reinforcing it. Until one day, you don't have to try to be disciplined anymore. You just are. That's what separates the ones who win from the ones who watch. It's not that the winners are always more talented, more connected, or more gifted. It's that they're more consistent, they're more locked in, they're more focused on the mission in the moment. And that focus, that consistency, that structure, it all comes from discipline. The grind becomes their lifestyle, not just something they do when they feel good. They don't need hype. They've got habits. They don't need emotions. They've got execution. They don't need perfect condition. They've got an unbreakable routine. Discipline doesn't promise comfort, but it guarantees results. And when you truly embrace that, when you let discipline take control, motivation becomes a bonus, not a requirement. Consistency is the hidden key to greatness. It's not the big, flashy moments that make a champion. It's the small, unseen, repeated actions done with excellence over time. Everybody wants to be legendary, but few are willing to do the same thing day in and day out with no applause, no recognition, no immediate payoff. But that's where greatness lives. It lives in the details, in the habits, in the mundane. And the ones who rise to the top aren't always the most talented. They're the most consistent. They're the ones who show up when it's boring, when it's hard, when it's lonely, and they keep doing what needs to be done. It's easy to go hard for a day. It's easy to be locked in for a week. But can you show up with the same hunger, the same effort, the same precision for months, for years? That's the real test. That's where people fall off, because the process gets repetitive, the grind gets quiet, and in that silence, doubt creeps in. Distractions come knocking, but champions, they don't need motivation to show up. They've trained themselves to be consistent no matter what. They make excellence a habit, not a goal. They don't wait to feel ready. They don't wait to feel good. They just go to work. Repetition builds rhythm. Rhythm builds momentum. Momentum builds mastery. You don't get great by doing something once. You don't get strong by training occasionally. It's the daily discipline, the hourly focus, the constant repetition that sharpens your edge. You do the reps when you're tired. You do the work when you're uninspired, because every action compounds. Every small win stacks. And before you know it, what once felt difficult becomes natural. What once seemed impossible becomes routine. That's the power of relentless consistency. It turns effort into instinct. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. Your systems are built through consistent behavior, through discipline, through repetition. You don't become elite on accident. It's a decision, followed by a schedule, followed by daily execution. The champion doesn't hope to succeed. The champion builds success through habit. They create a structure that supports the outcome they want. And then they show up and follow that structure, whether they feel like it or not. Consistency isn't glamorous. It doesn't always feel good. It's often boring. But it's the boring things done well. They're the foundation of greatness. Waking up early, stretching, studying, eating right, getting those extra reps in, reviewing film, checking your habits, managing your time. Those are the things that win championships. Not once, not twice, but every single day. The gap between average and elite isn't in the big moments. It's in the small ones. The choices no one sees. The discipline no one celebrates. The effort no one claps for. Most people want change without changing. They want results without repetition. But champions understand that success is a product of process. That mastery requires maintenance. That greatness is earned through patience. There are no shortcuts. There's no fast track. It's a slow, steady climb built on consistent effort over time. The ones who make it aren't the ones who work the hardest for a week. They're the ones who keep working when the hype dies down. They keep showing up when the energy fades. They keep grinding when the results take longer than expected. Consistency builds trust with yourself. Every time you show up, you prove to yourself that you're reliable, that you're committed, that you're serious. And that belief compounds. You start walking different, talking different, performing different, because now you're not hoping to win. You expect to. You're not guessing anymore. You're certain. You've done the work. You've shown up too many times to doubt it now. That internal confidence, that unshakable belief only comes through consistency, through showing up when it's easy, and more importantly, when it's not about being perfect. It's about being present. It's about being present. It's about being intentional. You miss a day, you get back up. You fail, you course correct, you slip, you refocus. The power isn't in never falling. It's in never staying down. That's what separates the consistent from the inconsistent. The consistent ones bounce back fast. They don't let one bad day turn into a bad week. They don't let failure stop their flow. They recommit. They double down. Because the mission matters more than the moment when you commit to consistency. You stop chasing highs and start building habits. You stop relying on energy and start relying on execution. And when your execution is consistent, your progress becomes inevitable. Champions aren't made in explosions of effort. They're made in daily deposits of focus, energy, and action. That's the truth nobody wants to hear. That's the grind most avoid. But that's also the path that leads to legacy. The path of showing up, staying locked in, and never letting yours stand and drop. No matter what's happening around you, wishing is what most people do. They wish they were in shape, wish they had more money, wish they had a better life, wish they were living their dream. But wishing doesn't change anything. Wishing is passive. It's safe. It's easy. But champions don't wish, they decide. They don't sit around hoping that success will find them. They look in the mirror and make a decision. I will become who I was meant to be. That decision changes everything. It changes how you think, how you move, how you train, how you show up. When you make a real decision, it's not conditional. It doesn't depend on the weather, the time, the mood, or the opinion of others. It becomes part of your identity. It becomes the standard people who wait for permission. They wait for signs. They wait for the right time. They wait until they feel ready. But the right time never comes. Conditions are never perfect. Life never slows down. And while they're waiting, while they're hoping, someone else is out there making moves. Someone else has already decided that they're not going to settle, decided that they're going to outwork everybody, decided that failure is not the end, that pain is not a stop sign, that sacrifice is not optional, it's necessary. The ones who win are the ones who have already made the choice to give it everything they've got. No matter how they feel, a decision is powerful because it kills plan B. It eliminates the backup plan. When you truly decide, quitting is no longer an option. You burn the boats. You stop entertaining the idea of failure, not because it's impossible, but because it doesn't change the path. If you fall, you get back up. If you fail, you learn, but you don't stop. That's the kind of decision that builds champions. It's not about hype. It's not about feeling inspired for 5 minutes. It's about ownership. It's about being all in. It's about beaking up every day and saying, no matter what comes my way, I'm still showing up. You don't drift into greatness. You don't stumble into discipline. You don't fall into excellence. It's all intentional. You choose it. You build it. You fight for it. And every time you recommit, every time you double down, every time you decide again and again to stick with it, you gain power. You gain momentum. You develop a level of mental toughness that can't be shaken. Because now your effort is not based on motivation. It's based on identity. You've decided who you are, and now every action lines up with that deciding means taking full responsibility. No more blaming circumstances. No more blaming other people. No more excuses. The champion mindset is built when you stop waiting for someone to save you. Stop expecting someone to hand you an opportunity, and instead you say, I will create the opportunity. I will become the kind of person who earns success. I will become the kind of person who shows up every single day with focus and fire. Because once you've decided, you stop negotiating with your lower self. You stop listening to the part of you that wants to sleep in, take shortcuts, or slack off. You shut that voice down with action. There's a difference between interest and commitment. When you're interested, you do it when it's easy. When you're committed, when you truly decided, you do it regardless. You stop needing motivation. You stop needing hype. You don't wait to feel like it. You move with purpose. You train with intensity. You live with discipline. You think different. You act different. You operate on another level because you separated yourself from the crowd. Most people are floating. You're building. Most people are coasting. You're climbing. Most people are waiting for life to happen. You're making life happen. Every champion has a moment where they drew the line. A moment when they said enough is enough. A moment when they decided that average wasn't acceptable. That comfort wasn't the goal. That playing it safe wasn't worth it. That moment didn't come from inspiration. It came from desperation, from hunger, from knowing there's more and refusing to live below your potential. That's the kind of decision that shifts your entire life. Not because the circumstances changed, but because you changed. Your standard changed. Your standard changed. Your focus changed. You stopped asking a what if he and started declaring a what now when you decide. The world doesn't suddenly get easier. No, you get stronger. The path doesn't get smoother, but your steps get firmer. Your vision gets clearer. Your habits get tighter. You stop chasing feelings and start chasing results. You stop trying to prove yourself to others and start becoming someone you're proud of. You walk with a different level of intensity because you know this isn't just a dream. It's a destiny you've chosen to chase down with everything in you. Deciding isn't about having all the answers. It's about being ready to find them. It's about being ready to fall, to fight, to rise, to grow, and to do it over and over, because that's what it takes. That's what separates the average from the elite. Not talent, not luck, a decision, a commitment, a mindset that refuses to lose, because losing is no longer an option in the mind of someone who's already decided to win.
So now it's on you.
No more waiting, no more wishing, no more excuse. This is your moment to draw the line, to rise above average, to shut out the noise, and to lock in on the mission. Champions aren't chosen, they're created. In the dark, in the grind, in the moments no one sees. And now you know what it takes. Now you understand what separates the good from the great. So make the decision. Own the discipline. Embrace the pain. Stay consistent. And build that championship mindset every single day. Because once your mind is made up, nothing can stop you.